Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us for the NASCAR Tech Talk brought to you by Michigan International Speedway. Please welcome to the stage the president of Michigan International Speedway, Roger Curtis.
Thank you all. It's wonderful to have you here. I want to welcome you to the North American International Auto Show and a real energized Detroit, Michigan. Boy, things are really just buzzing again. It's absolutely fantastic. And we're so excited to have all of you here today for something very special that's never been done before here at the Auto Show, and that is a seminar with all the stakeholders in NASCAR to talk about technology, fan engagement, and innovation. So welcome to the newly remodeled and beautiful Cobo Hall, and a special thanks to all the folks who on the panels that you're going to meet later and get a chance to hear from. We appreciate them taking time. It's a very busy part of the schedule, as all of you know, NASCAR kicking off here at the Daytona 500 in just a few weeks, and testing just wrapping up. So we have two great panels today. We have one that's going to talk about technology, and one that's going to talk about the fans, which is why we're all here. Given the huge resurgence in the automotive industry and the auto show, with the integration of technology into the cars driving so much of that resurgence, we thought what a great place to have a stellar panel to talk about technology right here at the auto show. For many of us that are deeply embedded in the sport and have worked in it for many years, we know that NASCAR is a destination proving ground for all kinds of technologies from major companies, from Eaton to Hewlett-Packard to certainly the manufacturers you're going to hear from, Chevy, Ford, and Toyota. But I think we might surprise a few of you with just how much technology is involved anymore, because a lot of you probably think, oh, technology, Formula One, sports car. No, 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 no. It's NASCAR too. And I think you're going to be surprised with the league itself, with NASCAR, and how high-tech they have become, and the game-changing innovations that they are developing as we speak, and they're going to be bringing out in the next couple of years. The second panel is going to focus on, as I mentioned, why we're all here and get to do the things that we love in this sport every day, and that's the race fans, some of which are here right now, some of you watching live, streaming at mispeedway.com, which I want to mention, by the way, you can follow the Twitter feed, hashtag NASCAR Tech Talk, so follow the conversation on Twitter if you'd like. But we're going to talk about the engagement of the race fans, both what all the stakeholders are doing. The league, NASCAR, owners, drivers, the racetracks like MIS, to engage old fans and new fans alike with unparalleled access, technology that is very different for NASCAR, maybe from a few years ago, but certainly unprecedented with all the other sports out there. We're going to do our very best to keep each panel to 30 minutes. We're going to gauge a lot of it on your interest with Q&A at the end. But we really want to take time for those questions from the audience. And again, if you want to ask questions, you can just ask a question on Twitter and hashtag NASCAR Tech Talk. So with that, let's begin.
Ladies and gentlemen, NASCAR fans, please welcome our first panel. Gene Stephanician, Vice President, Innovation and Racing Development, NASCAR. David Wilson, President, Toyota Racing Development. Jim Campbell, U.S. Vice President of Performance Vehicles and Motorsports, Chevrolet.
They're high, make sure you don't fall over.
And Jamie Allison, Director, Ford Racing, Ford Motor Company.
Thank you. Welcome, guys. I'm very blessed. I get to see you guys a lot. SEMA, at the racetrack, Daytona, here. This is wonderful. So thank you all for taking time to be here. I think we've got some really exciting things to talk about and the technology integration that you guys have in the sport right now, which I want to start with maybe one of the biggest changes our sport has seen, and that was the collaborative efforts, maybe unprecedented in NASCAR before in the sport, between the league and the manufacturers to create an amazing car, the Gen 6 car last year. It created some great racing, some very compelling storylines that had to be a huge challenge to develop a brand new car, and that collaborative effort, having maybe never been to that level before. Can you guys talk a little bit about, and Jamie, we'll start with you and work this way, can you talk a little bit about what that was like, that collaborative spirit, and how involved your engineers were in that process?
Indeed, I mean, here you have 3 manufacturers with 3 different brand identities, 3 different designs, all trying to come up with a package, an aero package, whereby the racing could be as competitive as it's been, yet allow each of the manufacturer the opportunity to showcase their design. In today's times, the reliance on a lot of advanced tools like CFD, scale wind tunnels, gives you the opportunity to come up with the right package and make sure among the 3 manufacturers in NASCAR that indeed that we're all designing to a specific parameter. So we got our opportunity through diligent technology and through iterative process to make sure that the downforce levels, the balance that exists, as well as the drag that obviously limits us from going as fast as we'd like to go, that all those are within the parameters specified by NASCAR, but yet carries on the design parameters that each of the manufacturers, that each of the front end design of the car is still true to the street car that you see. So advanced tools, working together, and of course with NASCAR's parameters defined, and that's what the result was.
Yeah, I would echo those comments. You know, for Chevrolet, I'd say about 3.5 years ago, we sat down with NASCAR and really talked about how do we get the relevance of what we race on the track connected to what we sell in the showroom. And the great news is we were all having that same conversation, and really NASCAR was at that point where they wanted to make that next step and really make the car as much of the star as they could and really put the stock back in stock car racing, as the saying goes. And so that began the journey for all of us, and it was very collaborative. And candidly, we compete like crazy in the showroom and on the track, but in this case, we all needed to work together for a common goal, and it was really to drive the relevance up. So like Jamie talked about, and I see Mark Kent and Pat Suey and Alba Colon and others on our team here, we really went through that process. We showed NASCAR a rendering of what could be for Chevrolet, which ended up being the Chevrolet SS, and that's based on our rear-wheel drive platform that we build a Commodore for Holden in Australia, but it's also the same platform we do the Camaro here in the U.S. And we basically went from that and did the same process. We did CFD, scale wind tunnel, full-size wind tunnel, and you basically iterate that over and over again with our engineers, our designers, our race team, and the outcome was the Gen 6 Chevrolet SS, which debuted at Daytona, and we were excited to have a good result there, but it was really great to see the storyline include the race cars, and that was something we all did together with NASCAR.
And I would, again, echo my colleagues' comments. I think what was interesting for all of us, as you say, using the word collaboration.
Yeah.
And it might be counterintuitive to think that the 3 competitors up here could work together towards a common goal. But while we try and rip each other's throats out every Sunday, we do share common interests. And our goals and the reason that we're in the sport are the same. So it's been a tremendous success. We love our Toyota Camry, last year being the 12th consecutive year being the top selling car in the U.S., and to have the exposure that NASCAR brings for it.
Well, great point. You're competitors, week in and week out, and you're at each other's throats. And to come together and collaborate like that led to the National Motorsports Press Association Award at the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series banquet in Las Vegas, which I thought was fantastic, well-deserved. So a great point on competitors, collaboration, bringing that all together. I want to ask a quick question because I know I toured a shop a few years ago, and I was blown away by the work that's being done, 3D imaging, CAD drawings, those kinds of things. I think everyone, I mean, especially a lot of people, when you say technology, think, oh, Formula One, but the kind of stuff that you see on Formula One is happening in NASCAR too, and that's your engineers that are doing a lot of that. Can you speak a little bit to that about how much NASCAR has changed for you as the manufacturers over the years and how high-tech it's become?
Sure. We can start with, obviously, Aero. That tool of CFD, scale wind tunnel, full-size tunnel, that's also, all forms of motorsport, especially F1, that's a critical ingredient of all the preparations. But increasingly, I think I'm sure most fans don't know that NASCAR only offers a few limited schedules for testing. So technically, you really can't test at all the tracks. So increasingly what actually happens when you show up and unload on Thursday and you're out on the track, the very first time you unload the car, the driver's getting in the car, and the setup has been developed for that configuration. It's all been done on simulation.
Yeah.
So all the models that exist are fed into a tool that generates a simulation that is used by the teams to set up the car. So advanced use of simulation, models, predictive, correlation, all those elements go into configuring and supporting the teams showing up at a track that they've not been at, especially when if there's a new driver or a new crew chief, or even in this case, new cars showing up at the track. So simulation is a tool. We talked about aero, and obviously in powertrain, just a relentless use of dynos for validation, durability. You have 600-mile races. You got to make sure that you have the durability that withstands the withers of all that. So a lot of excessive tools that exist in the sport to help prepare us for the rigor of NASCAR.
Yeah, I would agree with the point that we don't have a lot of opportunity to test as much as we'd like, and for every day that we get the opportunity to test, we'll test because you have to stay competitive with these guys right here. So we do rely on a lot of the same tools, and in addition to what Jamie had talked about, we have a powertrain a team that basically does a lot of work when we're preparing to submit a new engine to NASCAR, where we use CFD and finite element analysis to basically design an engine that will meet the needs of the race teams and also stay true to, in our case, the Chevrolet small block V8. And so we use those tools to prepare for what we ultimately submit to NASCAR. We also have extensive dyno labs that are dedicated to racing, including driveline dynos, which allows you to really test both the engine and essentially the transmission and the whole system. That's really, really important and becoming an important tool for us, not only in NASCAR, but in other series as well. So we try to we stay very linked to our production engineers to get their best techniques. In many cases, Mark Kent and Pat Suey and Alba are developing tools that we're testing, and then when we can prove them out, we drive them over to the production side.
Agreed on all those points. TRD USA is an engineering company.
Right.
We're still the new guys in the sport, relatively speaking. And what was interesting is, as we came into the sport and started talking about it, started preparing, I think a lot of our folks were a little bit nervous. We'd been sports car racing, open wheel racing, and the perception was, well, this isn't going to give us the opportunity to exercise our minds. And what I know today is I have more engine engineers working at TRD than 2003 when we won the Indy 500. So again, technology, innovation, NASCAR, those are that is a fact. That's a world that we live in. I have more ex-Formula One engineers working with us today and across the sport. Yeah. I think globally NASCAR has gained a tremendous amount of respect for the technology and innovation that we bring to the racetrack every weekend.
That's great. So Gene, Gen 6 car comes out, huge success. The brand is back, went on Sunday, sell on Monday. Everyone's excited, some great races. But in your new position, it never stops. It's just continuous improvement, and I know you always want to make the racing better. What do you have in store now that's coming out? I know there's some rules changes and some other things you're working on. What do you plan on doing for 14 to make the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series even that much more competitive?
Yeah, Roger, I think the discussion about how many engineers we have working on things is we do have a lot of engineers. We try to leverage our expertise at NASCAR with the OEM engineers, along with the engineers at all the teams. And we embarked on a fairly extensive testing regime in the end of the year to develop our 14 package. We did it in a collaborative fashion, but we all did it because there's one thing that transcends all of us. Sometimes you get nervous working with these guys because they're brutal competitors, but the thing that transcends it all, they all love racing, right? And we all love racing, we want to make the sport better for our fans. So we embarked on that with some testing, and we came up with some solutions that we hope will make the racing more competitive and closer. We've done some things as far as the chassis setup. We used to have height rules where we set the car up at 4.5 inches. We've now eliminated those. The car will now sit at race ride height. We think this will make the cars more stable, will give the drivers more confidence, and will allow the followers to get a bit closer because they won't be bobbing up and down in the dirty air. There was also some application of downforce, some under the car and some on top of the car. So we had basically about 8 different things we've implemented, and they were essentially with bringing more stability to the car and trying to delicately balance the downforce on the car to bring racing closer and introduce more passing. And we will see how that plays out in 14, but we are ready in January talking about our 15 regime. So like you say, it's like life. It never stops. It's continuous improvement, and we just try to make improvements every year and just make this sport better and better. But we don't do this in isolation. We listen to the feedback from our fans. So we really have developed metrics which are fan-centric. You know, what do the fans want to see? And we try to evolve the product in that with the cooperation and collaboration of our partners here.
Well, you know, I've been a fan since I was a little kid, and before Dirty Air was Aero Push, and before that was something else. So there'll be something after Dirty Air, even if you solve that problem. There'll always be a complaint from the teams, so don't worry. You have job security on that. So, but you bring up a great point about the fans. So I want to ask this of everyone. The manufacturers, you're in there testing new technologies, pushing things to the limit. You mentioned 600-mile, 500-mile races, speeds, and just unbelievable limits of the technology. Can you have a failure in motorsports and it be deemed a success for you guys? I mean, it's on national TV, millions of people watching, the stands full of folks. Can it still be deemed a success when you find a failure in motorsports?
Well, I'll start, you talk about success. Get the word failure for a second. So, we are a car company. This is car racing. Success is winning on Sunday. So that's pretty straightforward. Other measures of success, learning from what transpires, during the course of a race or what transpires over the season is, the investment that NASCAR is making in adding technical diligence. Obviously, with Gene coming on board and the array of technologies and we went down to the tour with the NASCAR facility and the R&D center. Obviously, the emphasis on safety first and foremost. But really, the engagement of the OEMs, as was pioneered on the Gen 6, where it took really a core team from GM, Ford, and Toyota, Alba, Andy, and Pat worked together, and whereby NASCAR really entrusted the fact that the 3 OEMs are going to come back and come up with a recommendation that meets NASCAR's requirement. That, to me, the process, the governance, the inclusion of the OEMs is a measure of success. Because through a good process and through good governance, that yields a great opportunity for cars to compete on the track on Sunday, and may the best strategy, best driver, best opportunity, best call win. And that's, to me, a measure of success.
Yeah, just to answer your question directly in terms of if you have a failure in motorsports, can it be a success? And the co-founder of our company was a guy named Louis Chevrolet, and his philosophy, it sounded trite, but it was the 3 words of never give up. You heard a lot in motorsports, but you can have a failure in racing, and it's really about how, as a team, the manufacturer, your teams and drivers and engineers that you're partnering with, how you respond. And I've seen times where we have not won a race or a big race or a championship, and it's all about how we respond. And so the victory for us is that response and the ability to come back and win a race, win a championship. It's happened, many times, and every 7 days we all have a chance to go out and get a report card on how we're doing. And candidly, we had a very good year last year at Chevrolet on the championship side, but we'll be racing. It's a new season now, and at Daytona will be our first race, and every 7 days from there out just about, we'll have a chance to get graded. And so you don't win them all, that's how you respond. And that's been our philosophy, and it started with our co-founder, Louis Chevrolet, with never give up.
And I'll add to that, as an engineer, arguably you have far more failures than you have success. You hope that those failures happen in the background and through your R&D process. And once you get to the racetrack, you're able to leverage that into a successful weekend. But as Jim said, and for us, again, we've learned a lot. We've this year marks our 10th anniversary in NASCAR, and through that period, I can still identify a number of times where we didn't deliver the results, where we may have had some issues, but it is how you respond to those and deal with adversity. That's why I love the sport, because it gives you an opportunity every week to get better and deal with your problems.
Yeah, I mean, none of us like to fail. Everybody likes to do everything perfectly, but quite frankly, if failures are learning experiences, right? We get smarter, and if you take an organization and you do not allow them to at times take a chance and fail, you will build a very conservative organization that will not want to try anything new, and that stifles creativity. So by its very nature, racing in the human journey is about doing something different, taking a chance, and accepting that sometimes it may not work out. You try to plan everything and do everything to every contingency to take care of everything, but at times sometimes there's a lot of variables, things like that, but you just need to learn from those, and you have to prop the team up and carry on and just learn and make sure it doesn't happen again. So I think advancement, creativity by its nature will generate a few failures along the way. It's how you respond to them.
So, Gene, for you, a question on measuring success too then, with the changes you're implementing for 2014, not every race is going to be a 3-wide photo finish, maybe Daytona and Talladega, but outside of that, how are you going to gauge success now? It can't be necessarily the 2 wide at the finish line for every checkered flag, so what will it be? How are you going to measure success on the changes?
Well, I think, Roger, you're right. I mean, my ultimate dream would be that every race we've got 3 cars, one of each brand, and they're right at the finish line, and we don't even know who wins. That would be the ultimate world for me. But just like in football or baseball or hockey, not every game is a great game. So we will try to make every race the best we can. Now, the way we measure that, because you talk about good racing, talk about what is good racing, how do you measure? So we spent a lot of time trying to figure out, okay, how do we, as engineers, we like to measure things, right? If you can't measure it, you don't feel comfortable, right? So we have what's called a fan action score, where we solicit the opinions of NASCAR fans and what they thought about that race, and they give us a score of 0 to 10. So that's one feedback loop. It's not totally perfect. It's so much imperfect because it depends on what the weather was like, what else was on TV, all kinds of things, right? But there are some other metrics we're using, like the number of passes we have in a race, and we have to be careful how we measure it because it's per mile, because, so the number of passes for the lead, and then we'll also start to measure time differentials between first and fifth. When we make changes, do we close them up between first and 10th? Okay. Between first and 15th. So we start to look at these time increments, and if we can bring the cars closer together, we know when they're closer together, they're racing closer, they got a better opportunity to pass. So those are, and we've got a whole litany of them, but those are examples of 3 or the 4 we're using. So it is based on metrics, but at the final analysis, some of it you just got to look at the product on the track and look at it through the eyes of the fan, and that tells you whether it's good or not. We can have a good recipe, but really when you eat the food is when you know whether it's good or not, right? So
very well put. One other thing for you, Gene, the NASCAR Research and Development Center down in North Carolina. I'm in the sport, and I didn't even know. I was shocked to learn that the R&D Center holds 6 patents. So now I'm thinking there's, everyone's walking around in lab coats with the little rubber booties on their feet, and there's all these scientists down there. What's going on down there? What's exciting? What's next in the R&D Center? It's really turned into something very scientific.
Well, we're quite fortunate in the France family is very passionate about racing, and they had the long-term vision to put an R&D center, a building that's staffed by many engineers, and I think we are the only professional motorsports that has an R&D center, and we have it staffed with engineers. And initially, the R&D center started a lot of work on safety, And it's absolutely incredible. Just this past weekend, we had our 14th safety discussion with our drivers about what are some of the things we're doing to prepare them for some of the changes. And it's all with an eye to making this. It is a dangerous sport, but there are things through technology and through learning how we can make these things better. So we have many patents in safety. We have patents, for example, working on next generation of track drying. It's called Air Titan 1, and now we're on to Air Titan 2, and we've just got a couple of patents on that, and we hope to be hitting the track with that in somewhere between the first and second quarter of the year. So yeah, there is, and again, we don't have 1,000 engineers, but we do have 1,000 engineers, okay? And I have some, he has some, he has some, Dave has some, and the teams have some. And when you put all those minds together and we look for the higher order thing, which is the love of the sport and making the sport better for the fan, and we work on that. Now, we want them on Sunday, Saturday and Sunday when they race, we want them to be brutal competitors, but there is an area where we're working together to make the sport better for all of us. So this idea of collaborating and sharing knowledge and experience and part of it is we're all on the journey together. And if things don't quite go the way Jamie wanted them or the way Dave wanted or Jim wanted them, they will see there were a lot of variables here, and we kind of made the best decision we could. So part of it is getting the best result, but also being on a journey together so we support each other to make the racing the best we can.
That's great. I'm going to start calling you the Thomas Edison of NASCAR. You got a little research center down there and cool stuff. So, hey, being at the auto show, guys, this is for the manufacturers. You got all these great street cars that the public can buy. So I want to ask this. I think a lot of fans ask me this, so I want to make sure we get this out there for the folks listening and watching at home and the folks out here. What comes first? Is it you guys on the performance side going, wow, this would work really great in a street car? Or is it that side of the business coming and saying, hey, we've got this concept, we've got this idea, can you try it out on the performance side to see if it translates into the street car? How does that work?
It's not sequential.
Okay.
It really isn't. It's really when you're part of a team, and we'll pick on, we'll start with Mustang or F-150. F-150 is all new, all aluminum body. We wanted to showcase the toughness of that aluminum rigger. So Baja 1000, new engine, new truck, let's go. So no one started, no one requested it. As part of the team collaboration, we all understood what our mission was, to try to showcase the attribute of our truck, and hence we offered a platform to do that. Same thing in all of our products. When you think of Mustang, where it's raced, or some of the other products that, whether it's, the other manufacturers. So given the emphasis on teamwork and given how a lot of our products are being developed through teamwork, all this really rises out of the team collaboration within the organization to try to use racing for its intended purpose, which is showcase our products, connect with our fans, and have it be a platform for technology prove-out.
Yep. In terms of for Chevrolet, we introduced a new Silverado recently, and then just introduced a new edition of the Corvette. In both those cases, they're replacing existing products, so we're trying to take those new products up to a new level. A new Corvette Z06 has an all-aluminum frame, lightweight. We use racing as the basis for racing technology is designed right into that Corvette Z06. The Corvette was announced as the North American Car of the Year, and the Silverado the North American Truck of the Year. And the whole idea is that the whole team is trying to figure out how to take the benefits for the customer up to the next level. And it's a demanding set of customers. They're expecting a lot of our cars and trucks, and our job is to anticipate what they're looking for, understand what they want, and then deliver on it and exceed their expectations. When it comes to the connection between racing and the car side of the business, that's one of the key reasons why we race. It's called tech transfer. Corvette's an example. We have a lot of learning from NASCAR and other forms of racing, either on the vehicle or the powertrain, that we learn on the racetrack to build a better car or powertrain for the showroom. And so and it takes a team to do that. And in the case of racing, it's our race team, it's our designers and our engineers all working together along with our race teams to get those learnings out of racing into the next car or truck.
I would boil it down to people in the end, Roger. For Toyota, it's about the people that we develop on the motorsports side. in the partnerships that we have throughout our organization. I have two great examples, talking about the development of the Gen 6 Toyota Camry. We partnered with our design studio, Kelty, who did some great work, has several products in our showcase here in Detroit, but they helped us with our styling of our 2013 Toyota Camry, and making sure that that's consistent with the car that's out there on the street. Second great example is actually collaboration that we did with NASCAR in Gene's group, using the Toyota Total Human Model for Safety, which is acronym is THUMS. It's a virtual crash dummy that we used along with NASCAR to simulate accidents and do some predictive analysis. It actually generated some changes to the hardware in the race car, the seats that the drivers sit in, that ultimately made that product safer. So the transfer, it's through people. It goes both ways, and as both my colleagues said, it's about the team working together.
Yeah, I think also if you go to a race team and you see the engineers and the kind of information they collect, I mean, they know every lap, what speed at which point on the track, they know the wheel loads, they're measuring temperature on 6 places on a tire. There's a ton of engineering and good analytical work that goes into putting a car on a track and trying to find every advantage. And I know some of the manufacturers embed engineers into the teams, and they may work there for 2 years and then they go back to work on production cars. So this is also a good way of developing technical people, developing engineers.
Yep.
And the race car is one of the most grueling environments for some of the components on a car. The loads, the speeds, those types of things. So we do have this transfer, but the transfer also, we have talked to NASA a lot about some of the things we do on safety, because we have one of the harshest environments for managing the energy around a human body, right? And NASA has been working with us.
That's great. Well, I want to thank you guys for taking time to be here, sharing some of those insights. I think what is so amazing about our sport is there's no other sport where there's so much science and engineering involved in the competition. We certainly have our athletes, but we have the vehicles, which are integrated and actually part of the sport. And I love hockey. I'm a Red Wings fan. I love all of the Detroit teams, but there's something very special about NASCAR. There's many things special about it, but I think that's one of them. And I appreciate you guys taking time to be a part of our sport. Gene, thank you for doing everything you can to make it better. It's already great. The Gen 6 car was amazing. I can't wait to see what happens in 2014. I won't play favorites. I'll say good luck to all of you. How's that? Thanks for being here, guys.
Thank you, Roger.
Thank you.
Thank you. NASCAR fans, please welcome members of our second panel. Kim Brink, Vice President of Marketing for NASCAR. Michael Waltrip, NASCAR driver, team owner of Michael Waltrip Racing. David Reagan, NASCAR driver, Front Row Motorsports.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Happy.
And Ryan Newman, number 31, Quicken Loan Chevrolet, Richard Childress Racing.
Again.
And please welcome your host for this panel from Michigan International Speedway, Sammy Lucas-Gevitz.
Thank you, Roger. Good job. Hello. Roger's part of our panel, so I've got the job of hosting this panel on fan engagement. And welcome, everyone, and welcome to everyone who turned out today. Since you've already heard from Roger and from Gene, I'd like to start with Kim. Kim, as the Vice President for NASCAR, has been instrumental in what's called the Industry Action Plan. So I'd like to ask him to just walk us through a couple of points with the IAP.
So the Industry Action Plan, I should start by saying, thank you for a lot of our fans being here today. We are very fortunate to have one of the largest, most passionate and loyal fan bases in all of sport. And so we instituted a plan to make sure that we talk to those core avid fans, but at the same time, we want to make sure that we're growing the fan base. And coming out of that was a plan called the Industry Action Plan, which is looking just to make the sport basically healthier and stronger going forward. And it's really made up of a number of key focus areas. First is bringing in new fans that are younger and more diverse, particularly in the Hispanic audience. Another area is to really take a hard look at what we needed to do at our at-track or event experience, particularly with some of the topics we're talking about this morning, technology. Looking at our racing product and our cars that are on the track. Coming out of that was the Gen 6 car. How we get our fans closer to the drivers, an area called Driver Star Power. And then finally, using new digital channels to reach fans and make the racing experience better. So it's really that plan that is intended to grow the fan base, both for our avid fans, but also bring in new folks.
Well, NASCAR should really be commended for looking at the challenges that it faces as a sport. So you've done a great job of getting us through that, and we've had a really good couple of past seasons. But I'd like to ask you, what are you doing to attract a multicultural audience?
Yeah, so what we're really focused on is trying to bring in a younger fan base as well as a multicultural fan base. And the focus area is really in Hispanics. Obviously, Hispanics from a marketing perspective is important. Huge growth in their population, a lot of buying power. But probably on the softer side, it's more important that Hispanics like racing. They like a lot that we have to offer, patriotism. They don't understand stock car racing, so we need to do a lot of education. They love the family experience about our sport. So we made a deliberate effort this year to really invite the Hispanic audience, to our tracks. We had our first ever live broadcast of the Daytona 500. We have all new digital channels, .com, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, specifically tailored for content to that audience. We did an in-market activation with the Mexico Series, which title sponsor is Toyota, in Phoenix. So we brought our Hispanic drivers from the Mexico Series to the Phoenix market and really just reached out to the media community because they're very important in getting our message out. And, that audience has reacted, better than we ever could have hoped. In fact, our viewership with our Hispanic audience amazed us. It was up 40% this year, which is, absolutely amazing. And viewership of Hispanic viewers was almost 90% for our chase. So, off to a good start, a lot to do, but, again, just trying to make sure that the sport grows. And that's really important to a lot of our sponsors, who are in the room today.
Well, technology is so important in any business today, and certainly in sports. And no other sport really has that technological sexiness like NASCAR does. And part of that technology is the use of social media today. And 3 of our drivers on the panel are very active with social media. One in particular, Michael Waltrip. I'd like to get your take on how you've seen the sport change and your interaction with the fans as a result of social media like Twitter.
Well, I've been around this sport since the 80s, and I've seen over the last 5 years the garage diversify more than ever. There's so many cultures represented when we go to the races now. It means a lot to me when a little African-American kid or a Hispanic kid comes up and wants my autograph. That's something that didn't happen in the 80s, and so I know it's real, it's growing, and it's happening. And a way to connect to those folks is through Twitter or Facebook or Instagram, and it was a tool that we didn't have back then. And so I made the conscious decision to try to do all I could to engage the fans, talk to them about their concerns, talk to them about the things they like, and just in general engage them so that they have more interest in what's going on at Michael Waltrip Racing. When they hear my name, they think, oh, that dude I follow him on Twitter, I know what he's all about. And that's a part of it, and that's a huge part of it. But my favorite part about fan engagement is using Twitter and Instagram and those apps to engage fans face to face. You know, you walk out in the infield or around the racetracks and you shake hands, and it makes it real. And that's something that I think NASCAR does better than any other sport. Our stars, David, Ryan, are out among the folks that follow on Twitter. So it's not like we're these stars that no one ever gets to see or touch. We're here, we're with them, and we just use Twitter to help engage that society that's out there.
Well, it really helps fans get to know everyone on a personal level. And I'm curious if you can change a Twitter hat, so to speak, when you're a driver, when you're a team owner, and also when you're a media person. Do you have a different perspective of Twitter from those three perspectives?
Well, a lot of people think that I can drive in the HOV lane alone because there's so many mics in here. Obviously, there's times when I am totally a team owner, a driver, or just a guy on TV talking about the action I'm seeing, sharing it with the fans. There's certainly different times for different mics to show up, but I think in general on Twitter, you know what your goal is, and your goal is to grow the sport. I want more people to like Michael Waltrip Racing, but I want more people to love NASCAR. I want more people to tune in on Sunday afternoons and watch the broadcast so they can see David or Ryan or my car run up front. It's all about engaging the fan and using any tool or app, as the world we live in today, that we can in order to accomplish that.
And I'd like to carry that question over to Ryan and to David as well, in that we follow your wife, Ryan, and she keeps us updated with what's happening from your charities to your personal life. We see photos of your children. David, we're a part of your life when you're proposing to your girlfriend. So talk a little bit about how the evolution of Twitter has kind of changed as you've grown with the sport.
Well, I think just in the last few years, I've seen a little change, so I can certainly imagine what Michael's seen in a long time. But I'm a big fan of the sport of NASCAR, a big fan of the sport of auto racing myself, and I think that it's important to give the fans some behind-the-scene things that are going on and get a feel who we are as an individual. You can turn on any sports broadcast, you can turn on the TV networks and watch the big races on Sunday, and you're full of information on who's leading, who's running the fastest laps, your pit stops, the point standings, but they want to know what goes on Monday through Thursday, Monday through Friday. What's Ryan's favorite fishing hole? Maybe where you go on vacation. And there certainly has to be a point where you draw that line. Some drivers draw it a little sooner than others, but they want to know your personal life. What kind of pets do you have? Yeah, what's going on in your family? Your wife, your kids, your parents. So I think that connection that our fans have with our drivers, our crew chiefs, our team owners, that makes our fans the number one out of any of the major league sports that you have, because we have that interaction. Events like we have today where the fans can come and mingle with us and take pictures. And a lot of these guys I've talked to, they drove from a couple hours, several hours away to come. I don't think you would have that kind of engagement in other series. So we're very fortunate that NASCAR's kind of set the tone over the years that allows the fans, the drivers, the people that are kind of in the trenches working, that makes the sport go around to have that personal connection. And that's important. I've had a good time getting to know a lot of them, and you become friends with them over the years. You start that relationship and you see them 4 or 5 times a season at different racetracks, and then you finally get to know them, you get to know their family, and you definitely make friends with one another.
And you, Ryan?
Same thing. Long story short, I'm sitting watching TV last night, and my wife, she's over there on her phone, and she says, I guess David Reagan and his wife are having a girl, and she learned that from Twitter. So just things like that just kind of open up our lives to each other, and obviously to the fans, and that personal touch, as they said, that makes a world of difference. I mean, I really don't have per se a fan club anymore like Michael had a fan club in '92. I mean, those fan clubs aren't what they used to be. It's Twitter, it's social, it's all about those types of things that are instant. It's at your fingertips. It's on your phone. I was sitting watching the fire crackle and a little bit of TV last night, and my wife says, "Where's my phone charger?" And I said, "Seriously, you've got a brand new phone and a Mophie, and you killed that thing in one day, and it's just the way it is." I mean, she's over there nuking the battery out of her phone to be up to date with everything, and that's important for us as a driver or a driver's wife, and to be able to correlate to the fans. And from a technology side, when we all started, if there was a team in the garage that had 2 computers they were the team to beat. And there might have been 3 guys that knew how to operate those 2 computers, but they were the team to beat. And now you go to a test, and there's 15 computers per team, not per organization, per team. Sitting on a desk to log information, and there's literally more data that we collect than we can actually go through physically to make our race cars go faster. So that technology is there in every aspect of what we do, and it really all kind of starts from the phone.
And speaking from a race fan's perspective, because I am a race fan, I love knowing about your families, your dogs, what you guys do outside of the racetrack, because it brings me connected into your lives as well. So my boss is very active on Twitter. So I'd like to talk to Roger a little bit about tweeting, Facebook, Instagram. Everything's great, but it really means nothing if we can't have also that connectivity at the track where people can share those experiences.
Yeah, I had someone the other day, I was at a technological seminar or something was going on, and I thought one of the speakers said something great, that people's still the killer app. And it really is. I mean, you can do all this stuff with technology, which we are. We were the first track in NASCAR to have Wi-Fi for the fans last year. We were blessed to have that test, and now our parent company, International Speedway Corporation, is going to introduce by 2015 at all 12 of our tracks a multimedia race day experience. That'll be 4G, HD screens, the connectivity, the Wi-Fi. So I'm very, very excited about that. But you can't get so caught up in the technology that you don't know what to do with it. And these guys have said it. It's about engagement. To some degree, it will be technology, particularly with new fans. How can we use that technology to teach new NASCAR fans, particularly their first time to the racetrack? Because we've seen a lot of that at MIS, and I know they have at other tracks. But what's some of the things, like what's a lucky dog? Some of them don't even know the nomenclature, how to read the leaderboard. So they get really jazzed up and excited, but after a few laps, they're wanting to understand, well, I know what a double play is. I know what a power play is in hockey. I've got that stuff down, but what does it mean to take 2 tires versus 4 tires? So how can we utilize this technology to help new fans and to help old fans understand the sport even better and have rich content? But again, I go back to that human connection. And Michael's one, he goes out in our campgrounds. I go out in the campgrounds, visit with fans, connect with them. It used to be that guest services was a department at a racetrack. Now guest relations is our business. That's what we do. And as much as we're still a sports facility hosting NASCAR, I think we treat ourselves a lot more like Disney. And it's about the fan experience, whatever they're doing there, and making sure that they have from doorstep to doorstep a great experience. And so combining equally that technology along with the human connection, I think is really important for our sport. And I'm really excited about what our parent company ISC's done, what they're doing with investments. I mean, for us, we've invested about $85 million the last 5 years. You look at what they're doing in Daytona, that's going to be a whole new track at the World Center of Racing, $400 million remake, and that's all based around the fans. So I'm excited. I see what our sport has done the last couple of years. I'm even more excited about where it's going in the next few and what it's going to mean for fan engagement.
Well, Kim started with touching on the digital side. The drivers have brought that human element to it. You have brought up the fan engagement portion as well. I'd like to ask Gene, how do we deliver that digital experience to those watching at home?
Yeah, we've talked a lot here about the new way, the Instagrams and the tweets and all that, but there's one thing that I think that we are special. Our sport, our ambassadors, our drivers, Michael, David, Ryan, they shake hands with people, and I hope we never lose that. I think that's a big competitive advantage, looking a person in the eye, shaking their hand, tapping them on the back, and thanking them for coming. So we need to march on with the electronic world, but this is something, I think, one of the sports where people can get close to the athletes and make an interaction and really feel good about the sport. So having said that, I don't want to lose that, but we also need to go into the new world. So if you look at our sport tends to be, by its nature, a bit more complicated than other sports because it gets pretty, you got 2 teams or a lot of times and they're fighting it out. We've got athletes in very sophisticated race machines going around the track. And we've got to tell the fans not only about what the driver's doing, but what the car's doing. So if you think about, and you think about our fans and our kids that are growing up and all that, they are so connected, instantaneous. You send them a text, they want an answer in 5 seconds. If they don't get it in 5 seconds, they ask, what took you so long, right? So, and this is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with young fans that are instantaneous connected, and they're very fast, and their attention spans can be closer because they're fed so much information. So we need to move in this world. So when I look at a race, I look at the car, there's inspecting the car, there's officiating the race, and there's a lot of officiating that happens in the pit row and up in the tower. There's what is the car doing, and then what's happening to the drivers. So I see a world where, and we'll have to embed some technology in race suits and in cars, we'll be able to pull that information out, and we'll be able to share that information. So for example, if we could Bluetooth some of the medical data of our drivers into our medical staff, if there is an incident, we know right away the status of that driver, and we know if there was 2 or 3 involved, we know who we should go to first. So some of this now we don't necessarily share that with the fans, but that is something, one example of the things we can do. Now you think about some of the things happening in the car, if we can share that with fans. Now, all this is not as easy to, because the track is a very dirty environment. There's a lot of radio frequencies. We need to get fiber into each pit box and all that kind of, so there's a lot of structural things that have to happen, getting those signals out of the track to the customers. But we're embarking on that journey because what we want to do is present the sports to the fans in a way they can understand it. Because when you understand something, you enjoy it and you appreciate it more. So that's that's the kind of one of the things I'm tasked with, is how to put the equipment in the car to be able to send this stuff out, and then figure out who are the right customers for all that information.
I want to stress something Gene brought up, because those are investments, and a lot of times, being the track representative here, I have to bring up, it costs money. And it's not a shiny new suite building or new garage which people can touch and see and it's big and large. It's fiber going underground and connectivity and stuff. And those things are probably just as expensive as the brick and mortars at the racetracks. So again, I'm really excited about what ISC and other tracks are doing, what we're doing, and it's going to take a little while maybe to get to where we all, collectively, all the stakeholders want it to be, but the fact that we're marching in that direction, because we recognize how important it is, I'm really excited about that.
I think we have a time to take 2 questions from the audience. So if you have a question, I'd like you to raise your hand really high. We have a gentleman with a microphone who will come around and take that question from you. Okay. Right up here, Brad. Right up front, Brad. There you go. Why don't you tell us what your name is and where you're from?
My name's Norman Daniels. I'm from Warren, just north of Detroit. Since we're at the auto show, I was wondering, what was everybody's first car?
Was their first what? What was your first car?
This is dangerous here. Mine was an orange Jeep Wrangler.
Roger?
Soft top.
I think mine was a really used, beat-up Buick Skylark with no radio and no air conditioning. It was really bad.
Gene?
Yeah, I had a 70 Datsun 240Z, and then I had a 66 Corvette. I did a restoration. Yeah, but it was a beat-up Datsun, and I had a Camaro also. Yeah, so there was a few of them there.
Michael?
When I turned 16, I got my mom's car for a while, and I worked at Wendy's, and that paid $2.35 an hour, I think. And I complained to my dad a lot because he ran the Pepsi plant, and the guys that working in the Pepsi building were making $4.85 an hour. So he finally gave in, put me to work at the Pepsi plant, and when I got my first paycheck, I went to the Chevrolet dealership and bought a Z28. I had enough money, I was making enough a week where the guy that was my buddy that was a salesman there could write up all the paperwork so I could get my car without my dad signing for it. And so I came home with a new car on that first Friday, and needless to say, Dad wasn't real thrilled with my decision-making process. But I had a cool car.
And David, what was your first car?
My first car was a 1993 Ford Ranger. So I had it, for several years. I ran it extremely hard and passed it along to someone else, and it's still ticking today. So it's still out there.
Brian?
My grandfather had a 1974 Triumph TR6, and he had a stroke and couldn't operate the clutch pedal anymore. So my dad talked him out of it for my 16th birthday. So actually, when I was 15, my dad and I restored the car, and it was my 16th birthday present.
You know, a better question for Ryan would have been, what was his first tractor? He's the only person I know that has a tractor collection.
Yeah.
We have time for one more question. And tell us your name and where you're from.
I'm Kim Hopkinson. I'm locally from Waterford, and I'm always going to NASCAR races, especially with MIS since I was 13 maybe. But question, I know Roger has special coins that you send out, and I know some other people that have coins that they send out. As part of a fan with the NASCAR racers, is there something to involve with racer coins?
Roger gives out a fan coin that he hands out to fans. It started with the military as a token of appreciation and hello, and I think Mike Helton also does coins now. But the question is whether or not the drivers ever do coins.
I don't have any coins. I spent all mine on my race team.
But you spend a lot.
I couldn't have any if I wanted. So we just sign stuff, and hopefully people enjoy that. And the other day, somebody told me they were going to one of my favorite restaurants in North Carolina via Twitter, and I bought them 2 margaritas.
That's better than a coin, I'll tell you that right now.
Cost a couple of coins.
They seemed really happy.
I get some coins on occasion, and I've got a little plaque in my office where I put them all. For years, I just threw them in a drawer, had them laying all over the place, but I do display them some. But yeah, I'm kind of like Michael, any coins that you have in your pocket or something like that, you end up spending. But one thing that I give away to a lot of fans is I don't wear a lot of hats. I'm not a big hat person, and sometimes a PR rep or a team owner or something, hey, put this hat on and wear it, and I'll always give it away to someone on pit road. I've stuck hats in the car before, and they fly around and they fall through the seats, so I'll give away a hat, or if a fan doesn't have a Sharpie, I'll usually give away my Sharpie and say, here you go, take this. So I do give away some things, but no coins for me.
Yeah, I guess more of the receiving than the giving, but when I was with the Army, that was the whole deal is, the generals, the commanders, whoever, they give you their coins, and I have a big coin collection, as Dave was talking about. That's it means a lot, because you read some of the coins and the things that they say and the things that they think of and what those coins actually represent. Those are pretty special. So the significance of the coin, I think, to me, is probably, no offense, Roger, would mean more coming from a general in the Army than it would be from Roger Curtis. But
I'd say so. Yeah, I'll agree on that point. Yeah.
But they do have a significance.
Well, we do appreciate everybody's time today, our panelists, and also those of you who came to join us. For the media, these guys will be available backstage. They'll hang out with you for a little while, but we appreciate you coming. Drive safely, and thanks for coming.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, NASCAR fans, thank you for joining us for NASCAR Tech Talk.